Well, good afternoon, fellow constitutionalists. On today's video, we're going to talk about how to eliminate school shootings. How to eliminate them altogether. Now, I have two articles I'll read here. The first one is by Susan Jones over at cnsnews.com, posted today. It's a comment that Kentucky Governor Bevin made, and I think it's a good one. And I think he puts all the elements together in here. And one of the problems I've seen of late, ever since the Parkland shooting in Florida of last week, everybody wants to single out their pet peeve on these arguments, say, well, this doesn't work, or that isn't true, or that's false, or this does work, or whatever it is. And I think what Governor Bevin has done is put everything together the way it should be. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then I have this other article over at Townhall.com posted on the 18th by Kevin McCullough. 7 simple steps to eliminate school shootings overnight. And it may be simplified, but I think it's a good one, and I think we can learn something from this article. And like I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we are going to go over it real quickly here in this video, because I think it's important to get this out in the public. What do we need to do to stop these shootings? I think it is very simple. It's very commonsensical. It just doesn't go with certain people's agenda. So let's get right into it. The article by Kentucky Governor Bevin, we have to look at what has changed in society. It isn't the gun. Now, in this article here, this CNS News article by Susan Jones, he starts off with saying, guns have been with us since the nation's founding, but school shootings are a relatively recent phenomenon. So it's not the gun, it's the culture that's changed. Governor Bevin told Fox News Tucker Carlson Monday night. Now, he's going to talk about some things here. Like I said, some people are going to agree with, some people aren't. Some people who are seen to be one-issue folks will totally dismiss his whole line of reasoning without taking the whole totality of his reasoning in together. He goes on to say there are more gun restrictions now. There are more rules about who can and who can't own a gun or how a gun might be acquired than there were 50 to 100 years ago, and yet 50 and 100 years ago, children did not slaughter other children at school. What has changed? It isn't the gun. So something culturally has changed. And I would submit that we become significantly desensitized to death and to violence. And we are training children, whether we intend to or not, whether it's anyone's desire or not, through video games, through movies, through musical lyrics, through television shows, increasingly during prime time. Even the amount of violence is increasingly realistic, increasingly graphic, and there is a cost to this. Now let me stop reading there. A lot of people will just shut this whole line of reasoning down because of what he said. All their studies out there says this doesn't contribute to violence, in and of itself. And I would agree, maybe in and of itself it doesn't contribute to violence. But our brains are like computers. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay? It can't be helping the situation any, as we read on down in what he has to talk about here. Okay? He goes on to say here, you couple that with the number of psychiatric drugs that children and adults, for that matter, are on, and the number of warnings about depression and suicidal thoughts. You couple all that with the fact that our more as a society have shifted, or morals, in other words, folks, as a society has shifted to the degree that they're largely non-existent, that we no longer have these clear, delineated right and wrong boundaries, that everything is somewhat gelatinous. It means it's like Jello, folks. It just keeps moving around. And these children are increasingly coming from broken homes as well, and they find themselves rudderless. Now, you're a father, and you understand it's important what happens at home has a profound impact on what your children do out there. Too many children don't have the blessings of having a stable environment at home, and we have to look at what has changed in society and not have a knee-jerk response to the other rule and other regulations is the answer. And we know that the Parkland, Florida school shooter, his father died when he was very young, so he's raised by a single mother. And there was a lot of other things going on in his life. We heard today that he was actually suicidal. Not suicidal, but mental. Let me take it back. He wasn't suicidal, but he was found to be mental. Okay? And that's a problem. That's a big problem. And we'll probably find out in the coming days if he was on any psychotropic drugs or anything else like that. But again, I want to go back to an earlier video I shot that too many agencies, from the FBI to local law enforcement to the children and youth agencies in Broward County, failed. Utterly, totally failed. And they are complicit, if not culpable, in this school shooting down there. And something has to be done about it. And what Governor Bevin is saying here, you got to take all these things into consideration in their totality. Not just one thing could be the trigger here. But it doesn't help when you have all these things pressuring youth in society, and this is what happens. So it's not, something's changed, and he's right. It's not the society that's changed, or it's not guns, it's the society. Something in society has changed, and I think he pretty much hit the nail on the head there, especially in that last paragraph where he's talking about, that, and these children are increasingly coming from broken homes as well, and they find themselves rudderless. And we know we've probably heard all the studies about how it's not good to have kids in a single parent home, that boys need their fathers, and boys need some structure more so than girls. So again, I don't want to stress this point too much, but I think Governor Bevin makes a good argument here of what's going on. Now, let's look and see how we can fix this bad boy. As I said, I have this video here of, let me get, I guess, something else up here real quick. Or I got this Townhall.com article by Kevin McCullough, 7 simple steps to eliminate school shootings overnight. And we're going to really quickly read through this. It's after days of bitter hurt, anger, deep savage argument, and plenty of non-thinking social media trolls blurting whatever comes to mind through their thumbs, it's time that we as Americans begin a genuine discussion about how to stop the next school shooting from occurring. It's important that we do this, even though gun deaths are by no means the most dangerous form of death in America today. I'm going to read this here, but we abort thousands of babies daily. There are more deaths caused by knives in the United States than there are with guns. And what he's talking about here in 2017, with 300 million plus guns in the hands of Americans, there were 15,549 gun deaths. This ranks less than half the number of automobile deaths, and even though there are fewer cars in existence than guns, in 2017 there were 253 million cars in existence and 41,000 auto deaths. Okay? Nonetheless, the rhetoric is so loud and the anger so tightly wound that a way forward needs to begin. Genuinely good people on both sides of the issue disagree. Pro-gun people believe that owning a gun is one step of many in helping to keep their family safe and the government from becoming too tyrannical. Anti-gun people believe that the mere existence of a gun is a danger to all, but note that both sets of people desire safety in general. With very little expertise, but with the robust research ability, my staff and I began looking at the issue this week from the perspective of what could be done that would be tangible but also acceptable to both sides of this discussion. Here are 7 simple steps that can and should be implemented overnight across the country, and in similar fashion, school shootings would be eliminated. This list is not exhaustive, but is a starting point where goodwill people can come together and make a significant difference now. One, metal detectors in every school. That's a no-brainer. We're not even going to go over that one. Two, enforce everything. This is a good one here because this is a problem we've had as law enforcement in the United States, the executive branch, the whole nine yards. Oddly, those calling for more laws to be added to the already overly tough books of laws regarding firearms may not realize just how many laws already exist. Simply enforce the existing laws would cut down on uncounted numbers of people owning guns, possessing guns, and utilizing guns. This is particularly true in the area of those with mental health issues. Begin doing what laws already state must be done, and do so like our children's lives depend on it, which they do. 3, perform active shooter drills. No brainer. That schools already do this, folks. They really do. 4, this is something I think schools need to actually take a look at and do more of. Reinforce doors, windows, buses, and locks. These things left to themselves were installed and still did not stop the shooter at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newton, Connecticut. They are able to stop some of the carnage. At the Stoneman Douglas High School, the shooter attempted to shoot through the reinforced glass of a classroom in an attempt to shoot victims outside the building, but was unable to because of the technology of the glass. That piece of hardened, thickened glass saves lives, which it does. And I see commercials on Facebook, on YouTube, all the time about these mechanisms they can use to barricade the doors so you can't open them from the outside. You can harden the doors. Most schools that I ever attended had cinder block walls, so a .223 round is not going to penetrate a cinder block wall. But reinforcing the schools against this type of attack would go a long way. Number 5, this is very commonsensical. Recruit retired military and law enforcement. The number of qualified public safety professionals that live in our communities is surprising. These friends and neighbors have already received certification in weapons training. Most of them, unless they became criminals, are already allowed to own, possess, and carry firearms, having them operate the access points at the schools, check every backpack and bag carried into the premise, and engage every threat, be it a firearm, a pocket knife, or any other form of contraband, would not only ensure a safer school campus, but also a more rule-following, law-abiding one. Drugs, porn, and other forms of disruptive material would be filtered out of the school campus environment on the threat of being discovered every day by the school security professionals, professionals. Number 6, arm all appropriate personnel. And this is something that everybody's debating about, okay? Giving teachers, coaches, and administrators, only the ones who wish to, the right to protect themselves on campus and a backstop to all other methods. But it is a genuine deterrent nonetheless. If only 5 to 10% of staff were also armed, certified, and properly trained, there would be no threat that first got through the detectors, security professionals, and the hallways that would still be allowed complete and utter access to the student body. Instead of a coach taking bullets, giving up his life to protect the students, numbers of teachers and coaches would be ready to confront the threat that made it to their area of the campus. And 7, the final one, publicize consequences. The mere knowledge of this list of obstacles to any attacker may not completely dissuade him, but since it was already apparent that this list of steps would have actually saved some, if not all, the lives in Florida this week, one thing can be easily understood. Any individual who decides to try something under these guidelines runs a much larger threat of being caught, captured, or killed if he tries it. So talk about it openly. Do the drills. Teach the kids to fight for their own survival. Tell the predators in advance that if they choose to attack a school, it is open more on them. And before they ever have a chance to enter the facility, the daunting challenge they will face will likely be a price too steep for them to be willing to pay. And folks, these arguments are very, very important for us to have. These discussions we need to be having, folks. We really, really do, and we're not, because of all the angry rhetoric coming mostly from the left. I have seen some idiots on the right that you'd think would know better talk about these things, but again, it's amazing to me how many of these people out there on the left just don't get it? They just don't understand how we can actually protect our children without infringing on law-abiding citizens' Second Amendment rights, which we don't want to see go away either. And so this is very, very important for us to understand. And this is very, very important. We really need to do these things. These 7 steps here would either dramatically decrease school shootings or eliminate them altogether. And I would say it would probably eliminate the mass shootings altogether. Will some people still get hurt? Will some people still try it? Yes. You ever heard of suicide by cops? There's going to be some people out there that are still going to be something wrong in their head enough that they're still going to try this, and it's something we need to be prepared for and thinking about. This has been the Dan Clements Show. I'm your host, Dan Clements, your constitutional warrior. Remember, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you in the next video. And please, like, support, share, and most importantly, subscribe to these videos. Hit the notification button so you know when I put out a new video every day. So we'll see you again on the next video.